Rima she can't work anymore. I said, no problem. You don't have your tax papers saved for 7 years, and then they want something, and you don't have proof. They say the burden of proof is on you. You have to substantiate the paperwork. You have to bring your receipts. You better be ready, man. You better be ready. You better dress in armor. You got some money, you better have your armor on, because they're coming. They're all coming. So let's say hello to each other real quick. I'm going to put it to mute off. Hey, you guys, how's everybody doing out there?
Hey, Vic.
Hi, Vic. Hi, Vic. Thanks for the text today.
Hey, how you guys doing? Hi, Vic. Hi, Vic. How you guys? There we go.
Where's Greg?
All right. Any questions for Hardball? Step up. Come on. Hardball, do you hear me?
I do. I think the focus of the hope was for some intel here.
Let's see here. Go ahead.
I'm still with you.
Go ahead. 480. Go ahead.
Brother Vic, how you doing? This is Spencer, the vegan herbalist.
You all right? So how you doing, buddy?
I was listening to you all the way home from Phoenix. Did my little demo, and this one guy, he's limping in his cane. He goes, "Spencer, you helped me walk." I go, "Well, you look a little bit better." He's about 300-pound guy, right?
Oh man.
He goes, "Man, you helped me. What's that number cause of every chronic condition, disease?" I go, "Mucus." He goes, "My friend's got diabetes. Can you help him?" I go, "Do I have to repeat this one more time? Repeat after me." I go, "Mucus is the cause of every disease." That means, is diabetes a disease? Is arthritis a disease? Is your girlfriend got a disease? It's all one thing. It's called mucus. Anyhow, I thought, I got to hurry up because now it's after 6 o'clock. I got to tune in for Vic. So anyhow, I says, I got to get going here. It's late because the store closes at 6. These customers are trying to talk to me, and I go, "You got my information, just go for it." And I thought, now I know how Vic says for like the last 5-6 years I've been following you, Vic. I go, man, common sense died a long time ago, bro. So I thought, wow, it's good to hear you again, Vic, and about the history of Iraq and history and common sense, and hold on to your dinars, and just someday it's going to happen. So I just wanted to stop by and say hello. I just barely got back to my office, and it's good to hear your voice on the Gatekeepers call again about what you're saying. So that's my story. I'm sticking to you.
Absolutely. Listen, so Spencer, the thing is, maybe you weren't on the call when I discussed earlier. What we're going to do is we're going to have informational calls. Like I said, we got to get everybody's health in order. That's the most important thing, is because once your health is in order, your mind is in tune. You will know that you're good to go. And
there
the thing
go.
is, money has never made anybody happy. I could care less about what people have said. I'm talking about what I've seen. And I know for a fact that if your health is not in order, and I don't care how much money you have, But Monday you got a doctor's appointment. Monday afternoon you have a doctor's appointment. Tuesday early you got a doctor's appointment. Tuesday afternoon you got another doctor's appointment. Wednesday you're going in for an MRI. And now, lo and behold, all of that money that you wanted to do something good with, unfortunately you're doing good. Yeah, you're doing good by trying to spend it on yourself to get yourself healthy. But unfortunately, you're spending it on a lot of bad medicine. That's not going to cure you. It's just going to prolong your illness. So what we want here is for people to not be shy and bashful, to be, I don't want anybody to be afraid to ask a question. Hardball's here. It's a Saturday night. He has other things he'd like to do. So do I. Most importantly, I want to get home. But the thing is, we're here, and I don't want for anyone to be embarrassed to ask any kind of information in regards to what do we do? Let's say, hypothetically, this happened at 50 cents. Okay, now, Hardball, I went from being a nobody to being someone who's got $500,000. What do I do first? Mr. Hardball, I'm your first question. I just fell into $500,000, sir. What do I have to do? What do I do to protect that money? Can you start with me?
Okay, yeah, sure. Why not? Let's just say you came across some money and we sat down and we did some discussing as far as what you're trying to achieve. In theory, you'll have somewhat of your own plan on what you'd like to do. Buy a house, pay off your house, maybe give to the church, pay off bills. There could be a bunch of different reasons for that, what you would actually want to do with that money. Hopefully one of the first questions would be, what kind of, does anybody know what the tax consequence would be to this money? Like I mentioned earlier, we don't know now. When this happens, we probably still will not know. You would think we would, but I really, really, truly doubt it. I assure you the bank's not going to sit there and tell you what that ramification is going to be. They would never do that. So we're going to have to plan that money out. And we would be, in a nutshell, the way I work is when we're doing wealth management with people is we build out a rather complex and or comprehensive financial plan. That sounds like it's generic for 3 pages of some kind of thing off the internet. It tells it gets graphs here and graphs there, and it's so much more than that. It's I can't begin to tell you. So we need to find out what your priorities are for that money, Vic. So let me ask you, Vic, what exactly do you plan on doing with that $500,000? Have you thought about it?
Yes, actually, I want to be able to make sure that my son Joseph, in the coming 4 years, if he goes 2 years to a junior college, it's the College of the Desert, and gets football prep, and that's where they're trying to get him to go to play football. I want for him to be able to graduate there with good grades and say he wants to go to SC, and yearly admission at SC plus room and board, which I've already figured would probably cost me about $100,000 a year. So for 2 years at SC, for him to get his Bachelor of Arts or Science, I'm going to spend about $200,000. What can we do, Mr. Hardball, to make that come true?
Okay, so of not knowing what the tax ramifications are going to be in this particular case, you already have $200,000 slotted for your son to go to school. That takes care of everything for him. What, Vic? What if you let's just say, for the sake of conversation, that the taxes result to be actual general income tax, not capital gains, but income tax? Do you realize that $500,000, this whole chunk of change, minus what you spent to get it, which was, we all know, is about $1,000, maybe $2,000, maybe $3,000, minus that amount, all is going to be taxable as income. That means, in a nutshell, if that's what happens, and we can call that the worst case scenario today, you got half of that money, more than likely, in the state of California, or other states with state tax, but I'm speaking from California. You can pretty much guess approximately half of that money is likely to go towards taxes. Now, that's worst case scenario, probably. based on today's tax situation as we know it to be. So that leaves you with $50,000 after you've put $200,000 away for your son. Does that sound like what you would, is that what you want to do?
I think so. Yeah, that's what I want to do.
Fair enough. Well, then we now have a timeline. The most important thing about putting money away and how you invest it, the most important thing is determining the timeline. How long will it be before you need the money? It determines, or it helps determine, how much risk you can take. Now, when I say can take, you can take as much risk as you want. You can be the most riskiest investment known to man and need the money in a month. But obviously, that is a massive, massive, massive risk that 99.999 out of 100 people do not need to take. Your son's going to be going to JC, and he's going to be going to college, and he's going to be doing all these things in the next, correct me if I'm wrong, 4 or 5 years?
No, he's going to be planning on doing that in the coming year.
Year, okay. So you have a very short timeline. 1 year before he's going to start needing that money. And another, let's just say, for the sake of conversation, 4 or 5 years until graduation. So we have about a 5 or 6 year window here. Would you agree with that?
I would.
So that investment of $200,000 that you're needing, now, mind you, we could do a full-blown analysis on that, depending on the schools and a lot of things that we haven't talked about today. So we're going off of your general numbers. We've got about a 5 or 6 year window, and we need to invest that money accordingly. And having said that, there's a lot of ways to go about that, but that's the throttle, the gas pedal, if you will, on this investment is how, or the brakes and the gas pedal, how much of the brakes do we step on, how much of the gas pedal do we step on in order to be able to still have enough money by the time he retires, by the time he graduates, and make sure that this funds his schooling the whole way through.
Simple enough, no? But
it
needs planning. I said it's simple enough, but it needs planning. So
it absolutely does. There's no good answer to just plop it into. There's no such thing as one, bam, that's it, I'm done. It's an ongoing thing. It's referred to as active or proactive management of the money. To just slap it into one investment and be done with it is tantamount to the foolish move. So I'll say it differently. A CD in a bank, we all know, is paying next to nothing. If you get 1%, the Fed just raised the rates 0.25%. It doesn't mean that your CD is going to get 0.25% more just because of that. But interest rates will slightly bump up a little bit in the banks because they tend to drag, for obvious reasons, profit, all that good stuff. If you got 1% stretched out over this 5-year period of time, would that do the trick? Well, we don't know. There's mathematical calculations that need to take place. So let's just assume that it's not going to cut it. It's not enough. Let's just assume that. What's the next step? And in a nutshell, how hard do we step on that gas pedal to get this goal achieved?
Got it.
I'm using that as an analogy, of course. Sometimes you got to slam on the brakes. Just depends.
And that's how conversation breeds conversation. So I got another couple people wanting the question. So, Spence, I'll talk to you next couple of days, brother. Man, be good. Go ahead, Wally.
Hello, Vic.
Hello.
Hello, Vic. Andy.
Hi, Andy. How are you, brother?
I'm well. Hopefully you are too. Sounds like you are.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good, brother.
Got one question for Hardball and one for Spencer, if I can direct it to him.
Okay.
One for Hardball. I'm gonna itemize them both, and then you can take off and do whichever one you want. For Hardball, exchanging at a bank or exchanging at a dealer, all things being equal, rate and everything else wise, any particular benefit to going with one or the other, or we won't really know that until after the thing all shakes out and we know what the offerings are.
You just answered your question for probably almost every single question there is out there in reference to the actual currency. We just don't know. And it's driving everybody nuts. I get it. I get why it would. But you did. You answered the question. I appreciate you asking that because I'm sure there's a lot of other people that are, if they aren't thinking about it right now, they certainly were in the past. And they certainly will in the future. You know what? Either you bring that professional in your hip pocket into your life at that point, once we all know, or you just research yourself to figure out which way is the better way to fly. But all things being equal, it doesn't matter who exchanges the currency for you. If it's dollar for dollar, if it's everything fees-wise, everything about it is all the same, then it doesn't make any difference. I don't believe that it will be the same. I don't believe that at all. Because one is completely different, a dealer is completely different than a bank, as we know, completely different. And I don't know which one's better. We'll have to wait and see.
And probably after everything shakes out, you'll just go around and visit with 5 to 10 fiduciaries that seem to know something about the dinar and have to pick for yourself which one you're the most comfortable with.
That's another great comment. Fiduciary. Please let me allow everybody to understand what that means. That's an extraordinarily good thing to bring up right now. Everybody, if you have the ability to Google it, which obviously most everybody does, I would encourage it. Fiduciary is Fiduciary. It's an extraordinarily important word you all need to know. Fiduciary, in a nutshell, is whomever the professional is that you're working with has to, by law, put your interests ahead of their own. It is incredibly important to know that. If you aren't dealing with a fiduciary, I'm not saying you're going to get thieved or robbed or, we've used the term made off. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm not. But you might as well take that one extra step towards a complete professional by using a fiduciary. And not everybody in this business. Matter of fact, a very small, minor part of this business is actually truly acts as a fiduciary. It's not a designation. It's what they do and what they promise to do by description. So please do that. That was a great comment.
What's that form? An ABV or something they have to show you?
ADV Part 2 as a register, and that's a ADV. That's A as in Apple, D as in David, V as in Victor. And that is the filing they've got with the Securities and Exchange Commission on exactly what the maximum fee they can charge, all the services that they provide and offer, and that's just explaining all of what they're all about. But by doing this, they basically, excuse the picture here, but they basically pull their pants down around their ankles and say, look, we're bare naked to everybody. We are going to do anything and everything you want us to do. Because this is your money, and we're here as a professional to get you from A to B, like I was trying to get Vic from A to B on that $200,000 for his son. There's no right answer. It's building a case with the client to understand what they're trying to do, and then implementing it and then monitoring it over the years. And for that, you pay a fee. And it's as simple as that. Sign up for a fee, it's an ongoing fee. You don't like what you see, boom, they're fired, and that's the end of it. So there's no huge commissions or people ignoring you. Or this is what I highly encourage, and you can get that through many different kinds of organizations. But the bottom line is you need to know they are a fiduciary. Very, very important.
But you know what you're paying instead of some hidden back points on an annuity.
Yeah, I can't begin to tell you. Yeah, correct.
But
there's a lot of questions around annuities out there too. There's so many misnomers and myths, truths, and facts about every single investment out there. Not every single investment is right for every single person. There's a myriad of choices. It's finding the professional. And I'm not trying to pump myself, guys. This is not about me. This is about me doing this for 26 years and saying to you all, we have a lot of different ways to get you from A to Z. But is the person that you're working with acting as a fiduciary, which is your interest and theirs by legal definition? And that doesn't even make them good. That doesn't even make them good. We all know every doctor that may work on this. Doesn't mean they're good. They've got an MD, medical doctor, doctorate, but that doesn't mean they're good. You still have to research past that. But the bottom line is that's where you start. You find a fiduciary that acts as a fiduciary role. So all certified financial planners, I can tell you that, all certified financial planners act in a fiduciary role. It's not the only ones that do, but they all do. Therefore, that might be very, very helpful as a starting point for everybody to look into.
And then you got to interview 5 or 10 and go with the caveat emptor thing. Let the buyer beware.
Yeah, I hate to say buyer beware. I hate to say it that way, but you're right. I mean, when we walk out of our house,
you got to pick the one that you're comfortable with for your situation.
Everybody, and I hate to say it this way too, but it's true. You got to go. I tell this to my clients all the time. When I first meet them and or along down the road, you got to go with your gut feeling in the end. If you've done all the research you can, you've got to go with your gut and what your gut's telling you. Because that, in the end, you've got to make a decision. And you're responsible for that decision. The problem that I see so many times is that the old classic deer in the headlights. I can't make up my mind with anybody. I just got to do anything at all. Or I'm going to do what I know, which is X. Bury it in the backyard. Put it in the bank, making nothing. I'm not trying to slant one way or another, guys. I'm just simply saying we're all human. We all tend to follow our past doings, or we repeat things. When this money becomes real, and I don't know how much it'll be, I have no idea, as I said that before, but it's certain to be more than it is today. I feel extraordinarily confident about that. It's going to be intimidating. I am going to actually be intimidated. But I do know what to do, thank goodness. The moral of the story is interview. Interview, what you're comfortable in interviewing, and then listen to your gut.
You got to do your homework, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you bringing that up about the fiduciary. That's an extremely important. If I said nothing more tonight, that word, I hope, sinks deep in everybody's head. Find somebody that has a fiduciary responsibility.
I didn't know hardball from the doorbell until tonight, but you're my kind of guy.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm trying to say it as straight as I can.
Is Spencer still on, Vic?
And what's your other question?
Maybe you could relay it to him. There's a book out for diabetics written by Dr. Joel Fuhrman, and it's kind of a vegan, but he called this method of flexitarian. I was going to ask Spencer if he likes the theory behind Joel Fuhrman's book, as far as dealing with diabetes and sugar, or if he has another, I'm trying to think of the right word, another protocol he likes better.
Okay. So Joel Furman, spelled F-E-R-M-A-N. Joel.
Yeah, Joel Furman. It's basically like on ending diabetes. I can't remember the name of the book, but he's written several.
Okay.
Basically, it's like on ending diabetes forever.
Okay. Let's see if he can get back to me and all that. I got a couple calls.
He calls his diet a flexitarian diet.
Okay.
Kind of like vegan, but only some more liberties.
All right, Roman. Thank you. I'm going to move on to our next caller. What? Get back in the queue, you guys. I don't know what the heck just happened. This is a new board, so come back in the queue. I think, Cody, I think you were in the queue. Come back in, hon. Okay, let's see here. Are you there?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
I just wanted to know if he could explain to us what the advantages of an LLC might be, or if there are any advantages to it.
Okay. Yes, I'd be happy to put my 2 cents in. So what I promise to everybody, anytime I ever talk to audience and or one-on-one, is that I'll always tell it the way I know it to be and start it off by saying, I've got is it opinion and or if it's fact, or I don't know. So with an LLC, it's fact and opinion split in two, and I apologize for that, but there's a couple pieces to it that I do like as it pertains to this. And a lot of people, by the way, think this is limited liability corporation when in fact it's limited liability company. So another thing, I'm not an attorney. Let's make sure we're all clear about that. I'm not an attorney. So a limited liability company is not a bad entity in which you can utilize, if you do this correctly, with the funds that come from this. Okay? One might ask, can I bring the funds into it after the fact, or should I do it when the have the entity own the currency and then exchange with that in mind, where the entity actually owns the currency? There is a difference, or I should say it differently. I would venture to say there is more than likely a difference with that as it pertains to taxes as well as protection. I implore you to seek an attorney about that very concept I just mentioned right there. Do I think it's mandatory, and or do I think it's a mistake not to do an LLC in this situation with the currency and owning the currency, et cetera? I don't know if I want to call it a mandatory. I really don't. For most people, it's a complex, not that it is complex, but for most people, it's a complex way of trying to basically do what you can do after the fact. A lot of people don't want to spend that money up front. I don't blame them. And in order to do that, you have to maintain the fees to it annually. These are things that most people aren't able and are willing to do. I don't know that it's a mandatory or a big must. But I will say, and I do believe this, after all said and done, and it is the kind of money we hope it to be, and when I say that, I don't know what it would be. Let's just say 1-to-1. Let's just for giggles say it's 1-to-1. $1 equates to $1. Just for giggles. So then let's just say we'll use a fixed example of $5 million. He had $5 million, therefore he has $5 million. Would that be worth protecting in some form of entity, whether it be a trust, whether it be an LLC, whatever it might be other than your own personal name? I do believe that does merit doing just that. Does it need to be done beforehand? That's a question really for the attorney and the tax accountant. At $500,000, I would say there's nothing. I wouldn't break my legs trying to go build an LLC. But if I had, say 50 million dinar, some I'm not saying the line is being drawn there either, but some exorbitant amount of dinar, I would really encourage spending $350, $250, whatever an attorney would charge you, for 1 hour of his time or her time to ask and go through these questions with that person. If you really believe this is going to happen, what's a small fee over an hour for something so huge that could take place?
Right.
So I wish I could tell you exactly what you should or shouldn't do, but I can tell you that I don't think it's a bad idea. I just don't know that it's important to do prior to the revaluation. Using that term loosely, change in the monetary regime is more specific versus afterwards. I hope that I know it's not as black and white as you'd want it to be, but hopefully it helps a little bit.
Yeah, I had already talked to an attorney about it, but it's been several years ago. So.
Did you already build the LLC?
No, I didn't. Not yet. Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, see, if you don't mind me asking, so other people can hear, what did he or she tell you?
Well, they recommended one, especially to protect your money, and also where taxes were concerned. Say you wanted to give a son or a grandson or whoever X amount of dollars.
Okay.
That way, as it coming out of this LLC, I don't pay taxes on it and then him pay taxes on it. It would go directly from the LLC to him, and he would pay taxes on it, not me.
Okay.
And that's not done until it's dispersed from the LLC. Was the way is what I understood him to say.
I would agree with that last comment. I'm a little fuzzy on the first part of it, but the last sentence you said after the fact, yes, I would agree with that 100%. Okay. So there's a lot of moving parts, right, ma'am? A lot of moving parts that you have mentioned there in itself.
Right.
And I'm actually very happy about the fact that you did seek an attorney about this. I mean, that's great. Everybody, if they are concerned about it, this is an investment. It really is the epitome of an investment. If you truly believe in it, and that's what it takes to invest in anything, you got to believe in it, then you really should seek this out. If it's a burning desire in you, seek it out with a professional that can help you with that. So it's a good question. I really think it depends on it before or after the regime change is where the big, and how much money we're dealing with is the missing piece of the puzzle here.
Right, and he didn't seem to think you absolutely had to do it ahead of time, that it could be done afterwards.
Yeah, it could definitely be done afterwards. Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. The question mark is it more efficient and or strategic to do it prior? That's the question mark.
Yeah.
And I'm just being honest when I tell you, I go, look, I have an opinion about it, but it's not nothing for anybody to lean on. So seek those professionals. It's an investment. Believe in it.
Right.
It's a good question, though. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Cody.
Thanks.
Okay, next we have go ahead. Next. Okay, we'll try it this way. All right. Go ahead.
That was me. I'm back again. This is Andy again. Hardball. In keeping with what you just talked about with Cody, I have a family trust, and the attorney, he didn't advise it, but he said, yeah, it could be a decent idea because I had gone out and I had to get an LLC for a job I had one time that was independent. So he said, if you've got the LLC and it's still active, and it is, he said you could nest the LLC underneath the family trust. I was wondering, did you have any particular thoughts on that? And part B was, years ago, I thought it was sexy to go out and, get involved in these, didn't do anything, but studying these offshore concepts. What's your thought about offshore trusts?
Oh, talk about Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Your first half of your equation, sure. Putting an umbrella around the LLC with the family trust, there's nothing wrong with that at all. And it can make really good sense. It just depends on what not that I'm trying to drill you and or interview on this right now, but for those people out there that might...
It's not advice.
Yeah, it's there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I've done that myself. There's reasons why I've done it. I didn't just do it by default. I have an LLC, two of them. I have an S Corp and an LLC. The S Corp's not in the trust, but the LLC is. And there's reasons for this. We all can research ourselves to death on this stuff, but in the end, it's relevant to your situation. Nobody's situation is the same as the next one's, usually. So, and then on the other half of the equation, or your question, yeah, it's Pandora's box. I'm not going to touch an offshore with a 10-foot pole. Yeah. No.
There's some of these companies you see, and they love that I call them flare-ups, and you'll see Nessman, Mark Nessman, and some other ones, and it sounds sexy, but I'm thinking, man, you could really get yourself into a mess.
Any time. This black and white, just common sense stuff here. This is my opinion. This is back to my opinion. Any time you are trying to get away with anything, it can't be good in the end. So my personal opinion is do what you need to do, research heavily, but don't, if it's too good to be true, I don't want to lean on that phrase because one could throw this currency into this picture, but if it's too good to be true, you're evading, i.e. the keywords, evading taxes at all. It's just, to me, it's got common sense. It's going to come back and bite you, and then you got IRS on you forever. I just want to pay them, and I want to be done with them, and that's that. That's just me, though.
Well, they sell it as avoidance, but a lot of times the evasion people like to dabble in it.
I absolutely hear you. I do. There's, like I said in the very beginning, there is a product for everybody, and every product makes sense to at least somebody. The question is what makes sense for your situation. Very, very general way of saying I wouldn't do it. But I'm not everybody.
My personal attorney has steered me away from the offshore concept.
Yeah, everybody's got to make up their own mind on that one. Believe in your gut. Listen to your gut. In the end.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Who's scared or has any questions about annuities?
Let's find out.
Who's already made up their... I'm throwing...
We got 505. Go ahead, 505.
Okay.
Hello? I think that was 505. Go ahead, 505.
Somehow you unmuted me again instead of 505.
What is happening with this queue again? Doggone it. Giselle, is that you? Hello? Let's try David. Come on, David. Hello?
Hello?
Hello.
Vic?
Yes,
can you
ma'am?
hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi, Vic. This is Marilyn from Glendale.
Yes, ma'am, I hear you. I recognize the voice.
And first of all, I want to just thank you for returning. Really have missed you.
I I've missed all of you as well.
So this is good news. I was so happy when I heard you were going to be here tonight. The other thing, I have 2 questions. One, if I email you, is it possible to get Hardball's contact information so perhaps I can work with him?
Absolutely. Meaning, this is why I said there's a protective layer. You're going to email me. You're going to send me an email, and that's based on trust. There's that word fiduciary. I'm going to make sure that your email is protected. Your email address is protected, and to the only person that you're giving me the authority to forward that to is in parentheses to Mr. Hardball, please.
Yeah.
Marilyn, you have my email address. You've mailed me many times. So that is what we're going to do. Now, I will say this. I'm not, for years, you all know I'm an Apple user. And this Yahoo address was made up years ago. And so the only thing that I will do, and I'm going to say this on an open call so that everybody's hearing, I will then take the email from Marilyn and forward it to my Gmail, which is a much more protective cove. And then from there, from my Gmail, I will forward it to Mr. Hardball. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, and then that's how the protocol takes. And your information is completely protected. And from the email that you send me to Yahoo, that gets deleted, goes in the trash, and be done with it. And here soon, probably, folks, I'm going to come up with a new email address. That'll be a Gmail address. I prefer Gmail much more than I do Yahoo, obviously, for certain reasons. But let's just keep it very limited in the verbiage. And then just tell me, Vic, can I have you forward my email to Mr. Hardball? And as I said, not a problem with fiduciary commitment on my behalf because that is your email address. So I'm looking not for my protection first, but foremost your protection. And then Mr. Hardball will get in touch with you. Not a problem.
Thank you very, very much.
Absolutely.
Really means everything to me.
And believe me, as I said to you a few months back, I haven't, since the last time that we spoke, the only trip to LA I made was to go see my granddaughter, my son Steven's third daughter, and she was already 5 months old already when Papa was able to go see her. So I had to make a beeline to Long Beach and back. But I am planning to come and see some relatives in not only Long Beach, but up in the La Cañada, Flint Ridge area where you're about. And I will, according to how much time, I will make it an effort to meet with you for lunch. And I might bring Stanley along for lunch, and we can talk to Stan as well.
Okay. I actually now am living near Hollywood.
Okay. That's all right.
Okay.
That's still my time.
To let you know that. And
no
right
problem.
now, I'm going to be having eye surgery in the next month. I think it's going to take about a month and a half for everything to get completed. And
okay.
I have to do that before I can drive anywhere.
Okay, not a problem. But
okay.
You just stay in touch with me. Wait a minute, man. You got my text message, right? I sent you. Did I send you a text or did I send you an email earlier today?
You sent me a text with a new phone number.
Okay, good. Keep that phone number and you call me anytime. All right, on to your second question.
Thank you. I have one more question, please.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
After the dinar revalues, will you be talking to us right away, and maybe you and Hardball and your other contacts help guide us?
This is what I'm not going to do. What I'm not going to do, contrary to what a lot of people thought, was Vic is never going to disappear. I've been in this community for too long. I'm not going nowhere. Yes, and to answer that question, again, I'm saying this is a recorded call. I'm not doing anything with anybody, including relatives of mine, where there's any doubt or if there's any idea that I'm going to benefit from this. I don't need your money. I don't want your money. I'm not in the professional line of work to ask you for your money. But what I can do is I can ask you for a favor. And that favor is to treat your blessing very carefully. Make sure that you understand if there's questions, if anything that I could be of assistance with. That's what I was in this community from the first get-go, from the beginning of. Now, I might be involved in development of land or whatever. That's my gig. I'm not bringing anybody in as an investor. As I said, I'm not in this to benefit from you. The only benefit I get from all of you that are listening to me is that you understand the severity of the situation we're in as far as protection layers so that we don't lose. Because most of us now, at least 5-6 years into this, are 5-6 years older. I was 50, now I'm 57. So if I hiccup at 57, it's not as easy to recoup when I was 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, or 50. So I'm assuming, and I know what that can mean, that most of us are getting to the age where we want to be more careful, and that's why this call is the platform of more calls to come to make sure that each and every one of you understand. If you want to do the triple Lindig like my buddy did when he went back to school, the chances of cracking your head on that platform is very good. If you choose to take, and you can ask Greg Louganis at the Olympics when he hit his head on the diving board, if that's what you choose to do, I can't stop you. If you want to take, like some idiot was telling one of my call partners, I'm going to go to Vegas with $1 million. If you want to be that stupid to go to Vegas with $1 million and sit your butt down, I can guarantee you they will take your million from you $1 at a time until the $999,999 is gone and you're holding your last dollar of the million. They'll be more than happy to oblige taking that from you as well. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, you do.
All right.
For myself, I'm not asking for financial direction, but we might be able to talk about at that point if it's better to go to a bank or a dealer or something like that, or not.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about things like that. And as Hardball said earlier, let's wait till we get across that bridge, and we won't be building any walls, no pun intended. But once we get across that bridge to greener pastures, then we can really know what we're up against. Right now, we're talking about tangibles, and there's a lot of tangibles. We might have to call an audible on the field because the defense has restructured themselves where they're anticipating my fullback going right up the middle. So I might have to flank to the right and throw a cross pass against the grain because my wide receiver's wide open. So we'll get to that point, and if need be, calling an audible, whatever, when that time comes. But we're here to make sure that everybody understands that, look, it's better to make your ideas and put them on paper and clearly share that idea with professionals who can then chart a better course for you. And we try to eliminate the risk. This is what this whole thing is, eliminating the risk.
I agree, and all I can say is thank you. I am so happy to hear your voice.
You're very welcome.
You're back.
You're very welcome, and I thank you for being on the call as well. It's a pleasure. That's a two-way street, sure. I'm just as happy as you, and I'm glad to hear your voice as well. Thank you.
Okay, and blessings to us all. Thank you.
Absolutely. You're very welcome. As we're moving forward, good night, honey. Thank you. Excellent questions, you guys. This is what this conversation is supposed to do, is to bring you to the forefront. Don't be embarrassed. Ask a question. Learn. That way we can all learn together. And remember, it's not only there's no I in team, but in team and in teamwork, together, each achieves more. We're here to learn together. No man knows it all. Nobody knows it all. Hardball will tell you, man, if I need assistance, if this plan is a little too, it's a heavy one, I'll ask for assistance. He's going to say, it's either fact or an opinion. I'm not a lawyer, and at this point I think we might have to interject the lawyer or whatever. Then we get to that. We do that when the time comes. You do that. I do that. We all do that. But let's ask questions and let's learn as much as we can right now. Moving forward, I have 505. I believe this is your open line. Come on.
Good evening, Vic. Phil from New Mexico.
Oh, how are you, brother, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for being back, my friend.
Absolutely. Not a problem. It's a pleasure to be back. And we're going to take care of some good things, you guys. We're going to work on a few things. But go ahead with your question, bro. Go ahead.
I apologize for not getting stuff written down. I'm on the road this evening, but didn't want to miss the call.
That's fine.
One of the things that I fall back on is you recommended a while back on the call about a book called Sudden Wealth.
Yes.
And I'm a retired federal guy, Hardball, and I'm not really in a situation where I'm in a hurry to exchange, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I can live on what I'm making, sure enough, but I'd like to have a little more in the pocket. And my goal is to put things into principal and draw up the interest of the principal, and then put 10 or 20% back into the principal and grow that. Am I headed the right way?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anytime anybody can draw money from principal without having to actually delve into the principal, I mean, there's no better way to win the game. Now, the only caveat I throw that, it doesn't sound like it applies to you. The only caveat to that is that if somebody's aspirations for that money is a lot more than just income, but maybe it's the principal as they're alive, making it do as much as it can do for them, from growth to and maybe perhaps being spread out amongst the loved ones and or charities and or movements that they're trying to conduct, to better mankind, or however you want to word all the above. There's usually a lot of variables than just simply pulling interest. But given your very scenario, absolutely. If you could pull just income and not touch principal, that's a win-win every single time. I can't imagine that blowing up.
Okay. That's excellent. I'm not going to hold it up any longer. I'm sure there's a ton other. Let Vic look for an email. I would like to talk to Hardball.
Brother man, not a problem. Thank you. And again, I will re-email that from my Yahoo to my Gmail, and then from my Gmail to Mr. Hardball. But again, everybody's information, whomever I've spoken with, whomever has ever emailed me any and everything, it's always been, I've always treated it with that commitment that your information, just like mine, is very important, and it doesn't go anywhere. And I safe keep it, and that's how we do it. And
you bet.
Make sure and that's the thing, you guys, write questions while you're on the call, after the call. You remember, let's say right now you can't think of it, write it down. Write your question down or whatever, email it. It'll go to Hardball. He'll get back with you on it. But ask the question. Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
And in closing, a shout-out to my brothers that are protecting us all around the world, first responders, the firefighters, fighting all these fires around the states. And I'm out.
Thank you for that, brother man. That is very much appreciated. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I believe this is my little Shabibi choo-choo. Can I get that little choo-choo? Go ahead. Hello? Giselle? Are you there? Go ahead. Speak. Go ahead. You're open. Go on. $817, go ahead. $817, go ahead. No, you just muted yourself. Go ahead. Huh. Let's try this.
Hello?
Hello?
Vic?
Yes.
Hi, this is Diana in Mississippi.
Hey, how you doing, girl?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
It's so good to hear your voice. Amazing. Listening to all the people ask these questions,
yeah.
and the guy that was just on talking about putting his money and living off if he could, off the principal. For Hardball or for you, having come from a marriage where my ex-husband was a trust fund baby, and we basically lived off the dividends of a little over a $3 million trust. And it was quite a substantial monthly income, of which I don't think he was drawing on an enormous amount of principal, because that's supposed to last him for the rest of his life. And we're into our 60s, so any ideas as if you've got that much, let's go with a 1-to-1. If you have that much in dinar to equate to that much, any ideas as to where you would go to be able to have somebody guide you in that direction? We had our money in the marriage with a company called Northern Trust. I don't know what that means in terms of what comes out, what you pay for a fee every month for you've got somebody that oversees your trust that you deal with. It wasn't an LLC. It was just an inherited trust from a parent.
Diana, let me stop you right there a minute.
Okay.
First of all, I don't want you to get too in depth in this conversation, only because of the sense of let's try to keep that as superficial as possible. Write that question. Write that question, and in your email, address again to me that I'd like to have a conversation with Mr. Hardball. Let me have you direct those questions again with basically what we just said, with the aspiration of fiduciary commitment, where he can answer questions, which is, we don't want 1,000 million people listening to this, because a lot of people, and I don't want anybody recognizing your voice, because I get a lot of people that go, hey man, your voice really sounds familiar. I've heard that voice somewhere. I go, no, I don't think so. But anyway, let's try to keep that on the down low, only for the reason that for personal protection, I think that's the best thing to do, and direct that question via you and Mr. Hardball by yourselves. I think that's a better way to handle that. Do you agree?
Okay. Totally. And may I ask another question, either to you or Hardball? In terms of the people that we should be looking to talk to for protection, is it what kind of, other than a tax attorney, and as a CFP, should we have a CPA? should we have, and on what level? I mean, I don't really know who all the players are that we should have in our court.
Okay, give me 1 second and let me help you with that real quick, okay? And then I'll have Mr. Hardball interject. For instance, my friend comes out to a location in my neck of the woods, and there's presentations, right? And we say face to face, we're sitting and I'm telling him, and I say this to him, and I'm gonna throw a twist because I'm not just gonna play it as easy as that. I'm gonna make it a little more difficult for him now. So, we're going to be doing a pretty large transfer from Iran to here. My brother went back. There was a piece of property they were trying to do an eminent domain on. Me, personally, they want me there, but I'm not going. So my brother has my power of attorney because I didn't serve in the Iranian military. So they want my, per se, as they say, habeas corpus. So they want to see my hide on that turf. But anyway, this piece of property was bought when I was born back in 1960. And it was about 25 kilometers outside of Tehran. And it was an area called Bagha Fez, meaning Fez Garden. Anyway, as the city and the population grew, the city of Tehran moved its boundaries out, and now my little piece of property, which is 3 hectares, fell into the Tehran city limit. So now that property has become quite valuable. And so naturally, the Cut forces and Khamenei and the likes of those crooks, they wanted to be able to own that property without any faults. So we're going to sell that property, and 50% of the money is going to be given in escrow, in mahzad, as we say, escrowing in Farsi, and they're going to give me better property than that, closer inside the city. The reason they need that particular property is because they're designing a very big hydroelectric plant. So the deal is I get 50% of the value of the property in cash, and I get better pieces of property within the city limits closer to downtown, which is a good deal. So
great deal.
There's going to be a large movement of currency from regional and international banks, and this is legal. We've always done this. Is nothing new. I am an Iranian citizen by law. I am an American citizen by choice. So through other fiduciary banking entities, I can do this. I qualify, as they say. So when that money arrives here, whatever the principal is non-taxable, obviously. Whatever I do with that money then becomes taxable because then it becomes income generating. So when me and Mr. Hardball meet, then there's got to be the consideration of him being my, per se, certified financial planner, working in conjunction with my lawyer, and along with who he would, let's say, through caveats, relinquish a few, let's say, very good, let's say, certified public accountants, because it's going to be a little bit more cumbersome. Anyway, so all of that can be ironed out when you have a quarterback. The quarterback that I'm looking at is Hardball. He's my quarterback, along with my lawyer, who I have confidentiality rapport with him, and I have other business dealings with him. So it's all good. What we need to do is get started in the right direction, asking questions that's going to benefit you for the future. If Mr. Hardball says, okay, you say you're from Missouri, Mississippi, Florida, maybe I can't per se help you on this, but I can help you on this, and I have, let's say, an associate that can help you in those areas. So it's all teamwork. It'll work. In the long run, it works.
Right.
In the long run, in that teamwork aspect of it, together, each and every one of us achieves more. But if you don't know and you go just and get blindsided, that's not cool. And that's what's happening in the marketplace more and more. Because as the population grows, as cities begin to become more populated, there becomes more scams, more banking fraud, more identification theft. So all of these things play a part. But asking questions is the best reason for us to do this call, to help educate people, to help inform them, to give us the IQ, which equals the W, the intelligence, right?
Yes.
The knowledge
and
the understanding, which equals our wisdom. So I hope I'm not boring you, but it's a good start.
I'm so freaking glad you're back.
Not a problem. Send me an email. I will gladly forward the information, and we'll go from there.
Okay, I'll send you another one. I sent you one. I guess it was you wrote back.
No. But I know. But send me after this
I'll
call. Send me the question that you want me to forward to Mr. Hardball, and I'll be more than happy to.
Okay, I will. Thank you so much, and
Absolutely.
God bless you. I'm so happy you're back. Just
Thank you.
with us, Dick.
Thank you. You bet.
Don't disappear. Okay.
No. I'm here. Don't worry, sugar. I'm not going nowhere. All right. Thank you.
All right, sweetie. Bye-bye.
Okay. Now I think I got my Shabibi Choo Choo back. Let's see where she is. Come on. Where are you at? 817. Come on. Hello? Are you there? Gisette?
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah. There we go.
I couldn't get on. I don't know what was wrong.
I think you kept muting yourself.
You think I kept muting? Yeah, I probably did. It was probably me. I'm so happy to talk to you. I missed you and Joey so much, and I was just heartbroken. So I emailed you today, and it came back, and I emailed it again. I don't know what I did, but I did something wrong. I misspelled something, I think. But I'm just so glad that you're there. It just broke my heart when I didn't hear from either one of y'all anymore. So still praying for you guys.
Thank you.
And I'm just so thankful that you're back. I did want to ask a question to your friend that's on the line. I'm not sure. I'm going to have like two groups of money, I guess, or two things to do. I've had a 501(c)(3) for about 10 years now, and I've only been in the dinar 7 years. So I bought some for the ministry, and then I bought some for myself. What I wanted to do was make sure that I own nothing but control it all. And how do you go about doing that? In other words, I don't want somebody to sue me and, like run in the rear end me and say, oh, I'm going to sue you now. It's your fault or whatever, because, those things happen.
Oh, believe me, they do. Go ahead, Hardball.
The best answer I have for you, and I hate to say this, but it's a word that I use so often, and it depends. There are many different instruments that you can use. You've heard many of them talked about. The question mark is, what's best for you? Only a professional can sit down with you and actually determine that. I shouldn't say only, but that would be my suggestion, is to use a professional that knows how to do that. And that, again, that's usually, in this particular case, in what you're talking about, that's a legal matter. And I would say, therefore, would be an attorney, straight up attorney.
What type of attorney? What type of attorney?
You're talking about, you're talking about either some form of trust or some form of business entity, or a combination of the both. No, I'm just saying those are the answers.
I would probably keep it separate, because the ministry will stand on its own, and it was established several years before this blessing came to me. So I want to legally pay the least amount of taxes on my personal thing. I don't think the ministry pays taxes, to my understanding. I don't know whether since I'm an officer in the ministry, I don't know, and it has been bought by me for that. Part of it was bought for that. The other part was bought, for my family. So I think you did say you weren't sure about whether you should put it in something before or after it revalues. That part I'm talking about the ministry. I'm not sure, or whether it's considered it's already in there because I'm an officer on it, and I bought it for that.
Well, at the ministry, there's a whole lot of different variables here. I'm sure you would agree. I mean, there are a lot of them, and I'm being just blunt here. I don't even, without it actually being like a sit-down, grind this thing out with the numbers in front of us that are factual and actual, there really is no way to hammer on this thing, from my viewpoint, not being an attorney. I could be conceptual. I could be conceptual at best.
What type of attorney? Would I need two different types of attorney? One that deals in ministry and one that deals in personal?
No, I don't believe so. I don't. In my opinion, I don't believe you need to do that. You can find an attorney, probably a tax attorney, would be sufficient. And a tax attorney is going to be able to tell you, look, if the ministry truly owns the currency. Now, it doesn't matter in this conversation if it does or doesn't, because I can't draw lines on these things. But if the ministry actually owns it, then they're already subject to a nonprofit type of situation, or I would assume as much. And if that's the case, they may already be good to go on that score from a tax perspective as it sits. On the flip side,
I bought it. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm interrupting.
No, it's all right. Go ahead.
Well, I bought it. I am an officer. I am the main one since I, put it together all those years ago. And I bought it with money that was from me, but it was on behalf of the ministry. And I have that set aside. And then, of course, I have my personal. And the two will not, it's separate. But I don't have an account that I put it in because you can't put the dinars in an account.
Exactly. It's physical.
So it is set aside exactly for that, and then I have my own. So as far as I'm concerned, the ministry, it already belongs to the ministry. And in fact, a few years ago, I wrote a friend of mine and I said I have X amount of dollars that I have bought through the years for the ministry. And then, I have my own. So, but you're saying I need a tax attorney, and you think that one would be able to handle both things?
Yes, and here's the flip side
personal and the ministry? Okay.
Yeah, a tax attorney isn't specific to I've never met a tax attorney that's specific to individuals only. A tax attorney that is specific to ministries only. There may be some tax attorneys out there that forte in a certain field, but in the end, they understand tax law. That's what you need. That's, I believe what you need. Now, you've got a lot, like I said, you have a lot of moving parts, and that's definitely the best answer I have for you, but I'll go one step further to tell you, one thing I think I can confidently say, and it's an opinion, not a legal fact, if you haven't actually assigned the money, the currency, any kind of property at all.
How do I sign it?
No, assign it. ASSIGNED.
Yes, I understood that. I probably pronounced it. Yeah.
For anybody else out there that might have heard me just say sign, it's just a tough one there. Assigned it, then a simple piece of paper. Now, this is the part where I'm going to have to bow back out again. I've assigned my dinar to an LLC. I have chosen to do that. Right or wrong, I did. And I just had a piece of paper, basically a generically worded assignment piece of paper that's got verbiage in there I assigned this currency that I purchased individually. I'm assigning it to this LLC. And you have to understand, usually, now this is going back to the opinion thing here. It's the spirit of the law. It's not necessarily. It's all about good faith in the spirit and the intention of what you're trying to do.
I was going to say that word, the intent.
Right.
So if I just wrote it out, even though I don't have an LLC set up, I can do that. And also I've written that email out saying I have X amount of dollars that I bought for the ministry. Or do I have to actually get an attorney that draws up a paper that says so and so and or assigns blah blah assigns this to so and so?
I have to plead the fifth, where I have to sit there and tell you that I don't have an answer for you other than what I did. But what I did doesn't necessarily mean it is gospel. It just means I'm not concerned about it personally.
So did you actually make an LLC, or you just put it on paper that your intent?
No. There's an LLC. There's no fictitious wannabe LLC. I actually own an LLC, and it was assigned to that one where I used the tax ID number and the whole 9 yards.
May I ask this question? And what benefit does that a person have by doing so? Do you pay less taxes legally? Is the money protected more that way? I'm curious as to why, since you are a financial planner, why you did it.
Okay. My reasons for doing this were more from a legality standpoint than from a tax saving standpoint. I do not believe that we are going to get away with anything. If we get this, it's going to get taxed, period.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what level. I don't have any idea. Is it better in this entity versus that one? This is just, to me, it's getting in the way. It's just stuff that's just minutia.
But we don't know if it will be a capital gains or viewed as income, correct?
No, we don't. It could be a flat tax. It could be a million things. We don't know.
Okay. We don't know.
So I did it for legality purposes because as you said in the very beginning, and so it's astutely said, I don't want to own it. I want to only be able to control it. And that is the definition.
That's exactly right.
That's the definition of either a trust or an entity. That doesn't mean LLC necessarily. It could be, it could not, it may not be. There's S corps or C corps. There's a whole bunch of there's entities.
Mm-hmm.
You own them. You control them. You don't own the trust, but you run the trust.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't own them. You don't own the property in itself. So therefore, if you get sued, in theory, that's not attachable. In theory, mind you. Now, if it's fraud or things like that, I can't help anywhere near that stuff. But if you get a car wreck, you don't own it. Theoretically, they can't touch it. And I do feel strongly about that. That's why I did it. Now, from a tax perspective, understand an S corp and an LLC, as an example, those two are what's referred to as pass-through earnings. Pass-through earnings means whatever they make in money passes right on through to you. So you're not getting away with taxes in an entity like an S corp or an LLC, and certainly not a C corp. So people that are getting into those entities thinking they're going to save on tax dollars strictly because they're in an entity aren't necessarily correct.
Well, I'm not trying to fraudulently not pay taxes.
No.
I'm going to pay taxes, but I want to do what the wealthy people do because I will be wealthy. I want to pay legally the least amount that I am required by law to do.
Absolutely. And that's, you know what, everybody, a lot of people, and I've said this for many years, there's like, I don't know, last I heard, like 38,000 pages to the Internal Revenue Code. Seriously. I mean, how ridiculous. It's there not to snag you. It's there for you to utilize. It really, you think about it, I'm not trying to half full it type of thing. I'm simply saying there's a lot of pages in the Internal Revenue Code that you could take and use in your benefit. But you got to be able to be creative and or research and find the right kind of professionals to do that for you. So in your situation, I completely agree. But I would be more worried, and I'm not suggesting you are or you aren't. This is for everybody listening. I would be more thoughtful, put more thought towards protecting the money as opposed to can I save in the form of taxes.
Oh, now, I am. That's why I want to find out, what do I need to do to protect it, because I don't want to own it. I just want to control it, because I do know that once you do have money, unfortunately in the world, if somebody thinks you have something, everybody's sue happy. And unfortunately, you can be in the right, but and they can be in the wrong, and you can lose, as we see what's going on in our own world where there's no rule of law.
You're absolutely correct. You are correct. Now, please remember what I say. This is me not being an attorney. This is me telling you all of my experience of 26 years and seeing a lot of everything. And this is, to me, what I came to my conclusion on doing. And that was to generate and create, in my scenario, an LLC, of which I've assigned the currency to it. I still hold it personally, just like I would my own personal stuff. As you said, you can't give it to literally physically give it to your LLC or to a trust. You still hold it. But as far as the true ownership of it, I assigned it to the trust. To the LLC. And when it goes to cash out, it'll be cashed out in the tax ID of the LLC.
Now, you might need. So, do you think that let's say we put it in the LLC, and once you cash out, you might have to put it in some other things to protect it, because couldn't that be broken into? They break that wall or barrier.
It's piercing the veil is the term that is used. And yes, it can. So there are certain states that have a little bit beefier, I'll call it, a beefier and or a more difficult avenue to get into an entity. Some states are easier to pierce the corporate veil than
What do you think about
states.
What do you think about a limited family trust? Is that something that can be broken into?
Well, the trusts themselves. Well, I'm going to back up here for a second, and I'd love to sit there and answer all these questions like I've got it all nailed down and I'm just the man about it. I'm not. It's all experience, a lot of reading and research and communication with attorneys, et cetera, but I'm not. And I don't want to mislead anybody on the phone. I will say that if somebody is selling a trust or selling entities and whatnot, please don't ask them if it's the way to go. Go to an outside attorney and ask them, a non-biased party, of whom does them, but all you're asking is their opinion. And then if you want to keep going forward with them, you go for it. But there are ways of doing that. You're on the right track. I just don't want to give anybody the impression anything is bulletproof, because it just really isn't.
Well, I thought that there were bulletproof. I thought there were things to bulletproof yourself with certain kinds of trust. I mean, I think I also heard that you put like your car in one, you put this and that. So in other words, if someone wrecks, they just get your car. They can't touch your home or whatever. You put it in different trusts like that. And I thought there's got to be a way, because believe me, the wealthy people have found a way. They know exactly. That's why I think whomever we go to, we need to make sure that that person is experienced in dealing with that amount of money. Don't let somebody learn on your money. Don't let them, if they've never dealt with, a large number, then I would be afraid to let them learn on me.
I agree.
So I would want to go to somebody that, has dealt with that number before.
I agree.
But I wanted to ask you this, and maybe you could probably answer this question real easily. Should you pay cash for a house if you can do that? Should you pay cash for the house and so you didn't have to worry about that, just the taxes every year?
I am going to. I know Vic would agree with me on this, and I shouldn't say that, but I would bet you to bet he would. Again, I'm back to that word depends. And
really?
Yes, it does. It depends. Let me go. I'll throw it back at you. You make $500,000 like Vic did. He made $500,000 on this. By the way, guys, this didn't happen, right? We were just using this as hypothetical. So Vic made $500,000, and he's remove his son from going to college and all that. That's not the scenario. His scenario was, should I use all this cash to buy a house? I got a $500,000 house that I've been eyeballing. Would you spend the entire $500,000?
Oh, I don't have to worry about it. I'm not worried about that. I mean, I'm not going to buy a house. Yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, I'll have a lot more money left after I buy my house. I'm not using everything I have.
Hence, it depends. Hence why I said it depends. It depends on what you get.
Let me interject a minute.
Okay.
To answer your question, depends on how you know how to move money and how well you are. I've bought many a house for cash. All cash. And I plotted that property because it was R4 property or R3. The value of me building an apartment on that property was well worth more than me keeping it as a single residence home, right? So your question comes back to the proverbial question. If that is going to suit you and it's going to give you the comfort for, say, that all I have to do is then just make the property taxes, okay, say that same $500,000, I buy 2 pieces of property, tear them down, build, let's say, 9, 8, 10, 15 units, depending. I can then turn that $500,000 faster and make more profit than you sitting on that house that you bought for cash. There's going to come a day you're probably going to want to sell that house, or you don't want to sell that house. But
I'm like a little bird that builds a nest. I don't want to move.
Okay, that's fine. Let's just say, let's go back to the proverbial question. You don't want to have payments. You gave $500,000 for this property. And when you bought the property, let's just say the county that you were living in, the property taxes were this much. Well, they reassessed it, just like they did through the mortgage meltdown when they came in and they reassessed the value of the property down. What happens if they come and reassess that value of that property that you bought that house for $500,000 all cash? Now that property is valued at about $980,000 because all the homes around you are valued at that. And now your property tax goes up by $9,000 a year. And now you've got all your ducks in order. You've accounted for everything other than the fact that instead of paying $30,000 a year in property taxes, you now have to spend $39,000, and you have to pay half of it every 6 months, and you're a tad short. And
I
so
got
the first
you.
year tax short, the second year
Lose the
tax
whole
short.
house.
Then on the fourth year, they're going to come and they're going to do what? They're going to put a tax lien and they're going to sell that property. They don't care how much it's worth. They're only selling it for the value of the taxes due and paid and owned. So that's why he can't answer that question to 100% to your benefit. You got to do all the math.
Yeah.
That's why these kind of conversations are good for learning, and we're going to learn. But that's a question you go, and when you talk to that lawyer, you say, okay, if I buy this house for $500,000, how much in reserve do I need to keep in my bank account just for the upkeep of that house in case property taxes go up? And is that money making you money?
Okay.
Money sitting stagnant isn't doing anybody any good.
Okay.
That's
a very good point, Vic. That's a good point.
Well, that's why the feds want to take the interest rate up, because that's going to do what? It's going to attract foreign interest to bring money to deposit in our banks where they can start lending. What happened since the mortgage meltdown with banks is they all got bailed out, right? They all got their 100% liquidity back, and they stopped lending. All of them became investment banks. They're out there at a trustee sale when I'm trying to save some dude's house, and this trustee sale, this guy says he bids full value, $300,000 on this house. The house was worth $6,000, but it went to trustee sale, and the bank just wants to unload it. And the investor, quote unquote, you keep hearing and slipping this and slipping that on TV. That's all malarkey. That's just a show backed by a bank. Who's the investor? They don't call it a bank. They don't call it Citicorp. They don't call it Bank of America. They don't call it Countrywide. They don't call it WAMU, Washington Mutual, or Chase. They say this investor. Who do you think that investor, whose money do you think that investor's buying that house with?
The bank.
His own money.
Oh, his own money? Well, what about him using the bank's money to buy it?
Look, he got bailed out by the Fed for $900,000 that he lent you on 100% financing. That house you couldn't do a short sale to it because the person that wanted to buy was your relative. So they didn't let that short sale go through. And so and behold, the day the trustee sale comes along, he's gotten his $900,000 from the Fed. He got bailed out. He comes back to that trustee sale, buys that same house that he loaned me $900,000 that went for $400,000. He's buying that house for $375,000 cash. And
I got you.
Home. So be careful. But we'll pick up this conversation on our next call. Whatever questions you guys have, email it to me. What's the email address? The Gatekeepers 2012 at yahoo.com.
Okay.
And with that, I think we need to shut it.
Okay, there's a lot to think about.
Hardball, we were only going to do an hour call. We went from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. How do you like me now, buddy?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It's so good to hear you.
All right, listen.
It's like a warm blanket. It's a big comfort.
All right, we got that. Listen, what we're going to do now is Hardball and I, in the next couple of days, what we'll try to do is we're going to try to streamline this call. Maybe if we don't do it once a week, where I'll do like a call with, let's say, Spencer every other week with Hardball and some other. What we want to do is, again, the whole purpose of what we're at and what we're trying to do is get everybody's health right. And then once your health is right, your finances will get right. That's a fact. That's a fact. So the one sad thing that I remember when I had my lunch trucks was there was a gentleman at Hancock. He lived in an area called Hancock Park, which was a very, very wealthy area in Los Angeles. Anyway, but he was a CNC operator, top-tier CNC operator. And so, lo and behold, that Hancock Park house was given to him, was like a family house. So it went from the grandfather to his father, and he got that house. So JD was going to retire. and we gave him a retirement party. I catered it for him for Peacock Engineering in Downey on Firestone, right at the brink of the 605 freeway. Now they tore that down. They built a Target. So JD retires. So I said, JD, what you going to do? He goes, I'm going to do some fishing. I'm going to do some traveling. I'm going to take my motor home, and we're going to go, me and my wife, we're going to go see the country. I said, good. So Joe Morrison, one of the managers, about 7 months later says, hey, Vic, I got some good news and I got some bad news. I go, what's the bad news first? He goes, well, no, let me give you the good news first. I go, okay. He goes, we're adding a third shift. I go, oh, that's great news. So now I got to work 24 hours a day. I go, okay, and the bad news? He goes, JD died. I said, what? He goes, retired. He goes, yep. I guess what ended up happening is JD was so accustomed to waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, being at work at 6 o'clock, that those 7 months of waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning and having nothing to do began to depress him.
Aww.
So,
well, I'll have plenty to do.
Well, long story short, I hope we all have or make a lot for ourselves to do, because idle hands are no good. Anyway, good night, everybody. Thank you for being on the call.
Good night.
Hardball,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Hold on. Let me, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Vic. Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome. Thank you. Next week we'll get to some. Next week we'll